surrender to prison, that person may have a lot of questions. That's the reason that we hold these webinars every week. We encourage you to visit us at prisonprofessors.com to see previous webinars. And then if you're a member of our community, make sure that you sign up to participate in the webinars that we hold each week, typically on Fridays and Saturdays, depending on my travel schedule. In the webinar that follows, I will give you a recap on what I learned from visiting the federal prison in Leavenworth, Kansas last week, and also my interactions with more than 20 wardens, including and also the regional director of the Federal Bureau, a regional director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Then I get into specific responses to questions that people asked who are about to surrender to prison. I hope that you find that helpful. Thanks.
And today, what I'd love to do is start off by describing what I learned on this lengthy trip and what's coming in the weeks to come, in the months to come. So I wrote about this yesterday. Of course, anybody can ask me any question they want about it, but a lot of our concentration on the webinars in the past have been about the First Step Act and earned time credits and getting out of prison, and that's a very valid question. So I want to tell you what I learned. Besides going in to speak to 20 different wardens of 20 different federal prisons, and also attending, going to Leavenworth Federal Prison and speaking to the people there, I had a lot of one-on-one time with the regional director for the North Central region. And to give you some perspective, for those of you who have not been in the Bureau of Prisons before, that position is in charge of about 50 prisons. So it's 20 different complexes, but some complexes have as many as 4 prisons on them. Most all of them have at least 2. So say an average of, say, 50 prisons. So he's got a huge budget, and he's a member of the executive staff for the entire Bureau of Prisons. So he has real insight. And I have a relationship with him that stretches back to when he presided over me going to the hole when I was in Lompoc Federal Prison. So I know him pretty well. I've worked with him on a business level a few times when he purchased our program in the Atwater Federal Prison and in the Florence, Colorado Complex Federal Prisons. And I've always known him to be honest and trustworthy. And if he gives me his word on something, I've never had a reason to doubt that word. So the reason I'm telling you that is because he told me that when I asked him a question about the earned time credits and whether those earned time credits, whether the Bureau of Prisons is ready to start implementing them on the computation score, he said he just got an email a couple of days ago that said that computer upgrade has now been done. And he said within the next couple of weeks, they're testing it, but it'll be rolled out within the next couple of weeks. And when that happens, everybody who's earning earned time credits will receive advanced sentence computations that lowers their sentencing range. So that's a very big piece of data and a big piece of news that I asked him, is that public yet? And he said, I don't think it's public yet, but I did say I was going to announce it to our community. And he said, that's fine. He said, it'll be announced. He said, it's just not public yet. Just the executive staff has that information now. But I was already told that it would be rolled out by October, but now it's going to be rolled out now, which goes back into me saying the reason that I believed it was, if anybody's going into prison, there's never been a better time than right now. Because the people who are in prison right now, they're living in this extraordinary state of anxiety, wondering, when am I going to get these earned time credits? When are these things going to advance my release date? And some people are sitting in prison and they're upset because they should not be in prison. Well, that's going to change as soon as this computation sheet's rolled out, okay, according to what he said. The second thing is that we spoke a lot about what the Bureau of Prisons has learned since the pandemic started. So if you look at some of those, in fact, I can bring my screen up here and show you. So I'm going to share my screen, share Chrome here. Okay. And if we go to Prison Professors and we look, just so you know why he's an authority figure on this, if I go to our advocacy news, section here, and I scroll down to this section here where it says rule changes on CARES Act, and I click on this link right here, and I didn't want that. Somebody's trying to enter there, so scroll back. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for CARES Act memos right here. If we look at these CARES Act memos, we will see, I think it's this one here, that he is the one that's authoring these memos. Attorney General, no, that's the Attorney General. Here, is it this one? Hugh Hurwitz. Let me go back. Sonia Thompson. It's this one. Attorney General. These are all the memorandums. I thought I had his up here. Oh, here it is. That's when he was assistant director of correctional programs divisions. This is the guy who's giving me the information, and he's the one that authored all of these memorandums that talk about CARES Act and that people can get out. And he was giving me the history of why this memorandum came out and what the conversations were with the director of the Bureau of Prisons and the Attorney General, as well as members of Congress when he was rolling this information out. So he's got real subject matter expertise, and I believe that what he is telling me is true. So what he was saying is that, you know, we've let out like more than 20,000 people through those memorandums that otherwise would be in prison today. Each one of you are going to be eligible to get the benefit of this as long as the CARES Act remains in place. But something really magical happened over the course of this time from the time the CARES Act started and today. What's happened is the Bureau of Prisons has received a tremendous amount of data that shows out of, let's just say it's 15,000 people that would be in prison today, but they're not in prison, they're on home confinement. Of those 15,000 people, I think he told me only like 4 or 5 or some really low number have returned to prison for new criminal conduct. So what that has done, it has opened a lot of conversation in the Bureau of Prisons executive staff and in Congress. And as his role as the former director of Correctional Programs Division, he used to interact with members of Congress on talking about what are you learning from the number of people who've come out. What the Bureau of Prisons has learned as an agency is that they can let more people out. It's not only during the time of the pandemic, more people can serve time very well on home confinement. And in fact, he told me that they actually had conversations at the start of this of just closing all the minimum security camps and saying anybody in a camp could be on home confinement. He told me that the members of Congress and the Bureau of Prisons were thinking about it, but the reality, he said, is that a lot of the U.S. attorneys were very upset because they don't want people going home. On the flip side, he said, the U.S. attorneys don't have anything to do with this decision. It's the attorney, when everybody got sentenced, you got sentenced to the custody of the Attorney General, and the Attorney General gave that discretion to the director of the Bureau of Prisons through this memorandum.
Michael, can I stop? So I'm sorry, Mike. I don't want to.
That's okay.
I just want to. The question is the incentive for the Attorney General. Like
The
why?
incentive?
Well, I meant the incentive to keep people inside. They got their sentence. It's on their resume. It's like, I mean, they locked you in and on to the next guy, right? So why? What is it to them that, especially like you said, minimum or lower, can't people nonviolent stay in prison?
Okay. It's not, I wouldn't look at it as an incentive. There are some U.S. attorneys that, as you know, they develop, and please, anybody who's not on mute, please mute yourself unless you're going to talk, because otherwise we get the recording. There are many U.S. attorneys, as you know, that sometimes take their cases personally. And if the Bureau of Prisons calls that U.S. attorney, and it's a bureaucrat in the Bureau of Prisons, okay, they're going to defer a lot of times to that U.S. attorney. I'm giving you a very high level of what I heard from a regional director who has like 10,000 subordinates under him in the Bureau of Prisons. I'm telling you what he told me, because to me, this is all very valuable information. And it didn't happen.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, of course, anybody can ask me any question.
Hi, Jonathan Ruffet here. Sorry, I'm on a phone call, not a webinar. I'm not
That's
on the,
okay.
Zoom where you can see me. So these earn time credits on the computer system, is this going to be nationwide or just in his district?
Nationwide. So
Okay.
Congress passed the First Step Act. That's a law. But this law, as I've said many times, is the biggest piece of prison reform legislation in the past 50 years. It's required the Bureau of Prisons to completely retool all of its policies, all of its training, everything. It will be many years for this thing to get rolled out. One of the big pieces was getting the pattern score, the risk assessment tool, because Congress required them to do that. The next thing that they had to do was to create these earned time credit classes, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I will before the end of this webinar. That's another big thing. The third big thing is, how do they compute it? How do they compute 120,000 people in prison who are going through classes and having their sentence get determined? Because they didn't used to have to do that. So that's a very big, complex system that they had to retool. It's like Ford has to retool to turn into electric car company, right? There's going to be a whole lot of factories built. It's a big thing. And it's turning a super tanker that's operating inside of a pond and then getting 36,000 people to go along with it. So it's a big job. But I am saying that's one of the reasons that I'm saying if anybody's going into federal prison, it's very helpful to know all of this right now. And anybody that's going in, there's just never been a better time to go in than now, because right now they've just solved this very big hurdle that complicates and gives a lot of frustration to all the people who are in prison right now, because they don't know. Well, they know it if they're in our community, because I've already blasted out an email to people in prison. But this, until it's done and you see that your date has changed, we're still just talking about it. I'm just giving you information on my trip. So according to him, it's done. It will be rolled out within the next couple of weeks. But let's just say it's by October the 1st. So by the time you guys get to prison, this is rolled out. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is the need for all of these programs that you can take, because I've shown it to people on previous webinars where the list of programs are, and there's not that many. Okay, there's not that many programs. So there's always a waiting list and things like that to get into these programs that will allow you to get 15 days off of your sentence for every month that you're in there. Well, I'm really enthusiastic because we're going to be developing a program together, starting to go into his region, but eventually it will be nationwide across the entire Bureau. I think that you will see a lot of these changes coming forward for a lot of reasons that are in alignment right now. One of them, you have the First Step Act getting more mature every week. But second, you have this new director who is going to be more in alignment with reform. And he told me that as well. He's already met with her once. He's going back to meet with her again next week. And there is a very big push to do things like give people the maximum amount of home confinement they can have. But if the president signs the CARES Act and obliterates the CARES Act, then that mechanism is no longer available to people. However, what he told me, said, but we have a lot of data that shows we don't need the CARES Act to show we can actually make communities safer by getting people to home confinement faster. And so there is a movement with the director and Congress to say, wow, we've proven it. We've got data that shows these people don't belong in prison. These people can be more effective for society if they are at home. We need to advance that program. And I'm just really, I think I would say in a privileged position to be a guy who was in prison that gets to talk to the regional director and share what I'm hearing and what's going on. So I wanted to share that with everybody on this first part of this webinar because I'm really enthusiastic about it. But it also, I want to say, that means I kind of have to retool our company in such a way because this opportunity to create programs that you guys can use to get out is going to take all of my bandwidth, and it's going to take all of Carol's bandwidth, my wife. So what we're doing right now is we're saying, okay, we got to hire some more people that can continue offering these programs, because when you're in prison, right, if you're on this webinar, we're always going to be there to help you, but we need to develop a bigger team. That's why I was earlier talking about Clayton Bowers, the role that he can have. And I think I'm going to be introducing somebody new, I hope next week. Her name is Julia. She's also formerly incarcerated, but she used to run the Department of Education for a large agency. And so she's got a lot of experience in both DC politics. So she's going to be, if I can persuade her to come on board, she will be, I think, replacing a lot of what Carol does, and then building and developing a bigger team to help more people in prison. But I'm also saying this to each of you, because if I've had conversations with some of you, they're really talking about what are you going to do when you get out? And in light of the way that the prison system is evolving, and in light of the way the new leadership in the Bureau of Prisons, my kind of passion and goal is to always provide more bridges to give opportunities to formerly incarcerated people, but I have to build that machine. And so I wanted to open today's webinar by just sharing this is a development that has happened since I came back from Kansas City. It's going to require a lot of my time right now for the next several, probably for the rest of this year. But I always am going to do these weekly webinars. But what I need to do now is I need to make sure I'm responding to questions that you individually have. So I have one of our friends, his name is Glenn. And Glenn had the courage to call me and say, hey, I've got some questions for you. And I'll say, the questions that you have are going to be applicable to everybody on the webinar. So why don't we do this live, and I will respond to those questions. But I'm going to add, and I know a lot of you sent me questions as well. I was just in prisons and in meetings this week, so I'll be honest, I didn't look at them, but I don't need to look at your questions to know how to respond. So please let's go the rest of this by letting Glenn ask me a question. And then after that, I will respond to any questions from any of you. And if I didn't get to your question today, please book it so that next week's webinar, we will respond to your questions directly. And we're always going to record them and share them with the community. But Glenn, now I'm going to ask you to unmute, and we'll go into your individual questions so that everybody can learn from you.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well today. So Michael, I sent you that list of outline. It was kind of long, but I guess basically you look at the earned time credits, that essentially means like days off the sentence.
That's for 12 months, okay?
A year, or is that?
No, a maximum of 12 months. But
a maximum, okay.
It's a maximum of 12 months together with anything else. So if you qualify for RDAP, it's going to be 12 months for earned time credits plus 12 months for RDAP. So you could get administratively 24 months cut from your sentence.
Michael, I'm sorry, can you repeat? Very sorry. What Albert, I think it was Albert who was talking about this. Glenn, I'm sorry, Glenn, because I'm in a similar situation where I qualify. It's in my pre-sentence report. I'm looking at Cumberland, Maryland next week, Michael, and everyone's telling me RDAP, you're going to go into RDAP.
Okay.
You know, this is what, right? So like Sam or and many others too. So can you start from there again, what Glenn was just saying in terms of the numbers?
Yeah. So how long is your sentence?
He gave me 30 months.
So 30 months, you don't get 12 months off of RDAP because your sentence isn't long enough. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
30 months, I believe it's 9 months.
9, that's what, right.
Okay. So it's 9 months. So if we took your sentence, I'm just going to go off the back of my head off of that. 30 months. I know you get 15% statutory good time. That's 3, 4, call it 4. That takes you down to 26.
Yep.
Then you get 9 months from that. That takes you down 26 minus
Ma-
9.
Michael, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt, but at 30 months, it would be 6 months off. 31's the cutoff.
30 months of cutoffs. Okay, great. 30 minus 6 is 24. No, 30 months. First of all, what's your sentence again? I got confused.
You had a long week, right? 30 months.
Is the sentence. Okay.
Right.
30 months is the sentence.
Yep.
Minus good time. We're going to call that 3, call it 4. That takes you
All
to
right.
26. Take 6 months off of that. That takes you to 20. You have to get 6 months minimum for the TDAP because that's part of it. So that's 20 minus 6 is 14. At the end of the day, you're probably going to do 10 to 12 months in prison. Okay.
That's completing RDAP, which is a 9-month program.
Correct. But
Okay,
you're not going to get into RDAP the first hour you get there.
Right.
Give it a month. Okay. Give it 2 months. Okay.
Right.
A month to 2 months.
Yep.
So then it's 9 months. That's 11. You're going to go home as soon as you finish RDAP. Let's just leave there. Now I got to turn back to Glenn. We can go back to you.
No problem. No,
Okay.
Mike, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Got it. Glenn.
Yeah, so with the credits, no longer your sentence is 60 months. If it's 48 months or 30 months, the maximum time you're allowed for earned time credits is 12 months maximum.
Earned time credits. That means, now remember what I'm saying, 12 months maximum. 12 months as a reduction in your
Correct.
sentence, that you
Correct.
do not owe that to the Bureau of Prisons anymore.
Correct. Right.
But that does not mean that you can't go to home confinement sooner, because you can
Okay.
still earn time credits. It's just that 12 months will cut your sentence administratively.
Administratively, got it. Okay.
What is your sentence length, Glenn?
So my sentence is 48 months.
Okay.
So when I look at the good term credits, that's going to be basically put it at 40.8. It's like 6 months off
Okay.
of good term credits. And then if you look at up to 12 months for
RDAP.
earned time credits, essentially.
Do RDAP first, okay? Because that's
Okay.
the RDAP is far more established than earned time credit. So this
Okay,
is
got
what
it.
we know. We
Got it.
absolutely know that you're going to get, as you just said, 15% off for statutory good time. That takes you to say 40, right?
Yes.
Then
Yes.
you're going to take, you're going to get 12 months off for RDAP. That takes you down
28.
40 to 38. Okay.
38, yes. 28.
Yes, 28. Then you're going to get 12 months off for minimum of 12 months. You're going to get 12 months off for earned time credits.
16.
16. Then you're going to get the rest of that off in you're going to have to go home. So you have to go to home confinement. You probably also, in light of all of these changes, you probably also on 16, you could theoretically be out in 12 to 13 months too.
Okay, let's say I would, but if I'd say RDAP if I didn't get into RDAP, it pretty much would have to add on another 12 months essentially.
What?
If I didn't get into RDAP,
But you're going to get into RDAP. Why won't you
just
get
saying,
into
I'm
RDAP?
just saying if I didn't though, like you still have like you.
Okay, so if you, and I don't know everybody's personal case. There's just too many. I don't know. Like, Jim Vasquez, I looked at his thing. I don't know. But did Sam and Justin? Have you talked to Sam and Justin?
But yeah, I'm going through this stuff right now, Dr. Gerard and all that. But I'm just saying right now, like I don't surrender until January the 5th. So I'm always looking at best case scenario, worst case scenario, right?
Well, if you don't surrender till January, Right. Let's just work at worst. Let's say you don't get into RDEP. Yeah. Then the worst case would be you add the 12 months.
Got it. Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So here's the thing about programming I want to talk about on the earned time credits. I know it's all being worked out, but so you gave us, I have the list saved on my computer in the file for a list of available programming that are available to the BOP. That PDF you have is awesome. It lays out like 54 pages of all the approved programs for earned time credits.
Yeah.
So
pretty soon you'll see the prison professors program on there.
Yes, it's phenomenal. So it's really
you should
good.
have a boxing program on there.
No, right.
When you come home.
So with those programs, it also says that it has to be recommended by like in your PSR essentially. That's what it, as far as on the First Step Act, like as far as the programming. So like
what did you say? It's got to be what?
It's got to be your programming that you do inside has to be under the First Step Act, has to be recommended. That program has to be recommended for you in the programs.
No. What has to happen is you have to take the risk assessment tool, first of all.
The pattern score, right.
And then you score low or minimum.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
And then you just have to take an approved course. So, of course, if they recommend any to you, you will take it.
Okay, got it.
As long as you are in an approved course, you're getting the credits.
Okay, perfect. Got it. So here's my question. All right. So, and maybe this is a little bit, but the way I'm looking at it, because on the BOP website, it doesn't tell you, you look at all the courses, it doesn't say, it tells you how many hours to complete the courses, but it doesn't tell you how many credits are given per course. But the way I understand that is
irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. It is.
Yeah. You're in the course. As long as you are in the course and you are doing the course during the course of the month, you will get the credits.
Correct.
Because that's what Congress wrote. And remember, again, why do I say if somebody has to go to prison, there's never a better time? Because all of these things are being rolled out, including my conversations with him about saying, we could consider closing all camps and anybody who's in a camp could be at home. Okay. That's probably years away before something like that happens. But with the new director and the discretion that she has received from the Attorney General, and I did share my screen with you before. Okay. So you can look at this memorandum here. I think it's the final rule. I want to show you the final rule. This, I will put this link in the chat. Let me see how I'm going to do it because it's kind of hard. Hold on. Let me see if I can put the link in the chat so that you guys can look it on your own. I always say, I don't want anybody to take my word for things. I want you to learn and read from what's published by Congress and everything else. So let me get you the accurate link. Hold on a second. Yes. Okay. I got the link now. So in the chat, in the chat, I just put a link. Okay. That link is to a rule where you will see that I have highlighted it and so on and so forth. This is published in the Federal Register. And we spoke about this rule and we spoke about the data that came. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sorry. There, I'm sharing my screen now. You can see this rule and you can see the areas that I highlighted. And you will see and hear about the information that the Bureau of Prisons received by letting out thousands of people on through CARES.
Right, I read that.
Because of all of that, if you're going into prison now, or you're going to prison in January, or you're going to prison next summer, there's a very strong likelihood, CARES Act or not, you're going to have mechanisms to go home. And that's what the regional director told me they're looking at now. Creating these earned time credit process that says, go through these courses for 6 months or 9 months, or in your case, finish RDAP and then transition home. Okay. That's going to be my job, to really advocate for that kind of change, which is why I say I have to restructure actually my company. So, because I know I'm going to be in DC a lot and traveling to all these prisons a lot to advance this. So these are very good things that apply to people. And I want you to have optimism, but it's always good, as you said, start with the worst case. When you know you have 48 months, you know you are going to get 15% off. You know that you're going to get 12 months off for earned time credits.
Right.
So, and then you know you're going to qualify to get out way earlier. So
Correct.
it's good to start with that worst case scenario,
Yes.
but I'm going to work to make it better.
So look,
Can I just chime in about the earned time credit thing real quick? I thought you needed to serve a full 24 months to get the 1 year off for earned time credit.
Yeah, but we're talking to a guy that has 48 months. So you're
But
right.
he won't serve 24 though.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out. Sometimes I get ahead of myself with optimism. You're right.
see
You
that?
have to earn the 15
He'll
days.
get he'll get about 7.5 months of earned time credit off his sentence.
Okay. So that's a good point. I got optimistic. You're right. That's off your sentence.
Correct.
And under Second Chance Act, you can only get 1 year maximum of RRC. So the length of time that you serve in there, that's going to be cutting off. Participating in programs, that's going to cut off the 15 days a month. And everything else is going to be based on whatever new changes that the director's telling me. He's saying, we can send you to home confinement. Right now, whoever asked me that very valid question and pointed it out, right now, that program is people are serving 25% to 50% of their sentence and then transitioning to home confinement under this rule.
Yes, and see, I've had COVID twice, and I have severe asthma, and my medical records are like pretty strong. So when I look at, you always talk about like planning and strategizing, right? And so when here's my question, going back to the credit thing again. All right. So if you look at all the programs that are available on the BOP website, that are available at all BOP facilities, not just specific facilities, but all of them, right? And you gave an example in the article saying that you could simultaneously run two or three programs at the same month, as long as they don't overlap as far as the times they're offered inside. Is that really realistic?
Okay, let's talk about now. Again, why is it better to be going in later? Let's talk about now, and let's talk about 3 months from now.
Yep.
So now, a lot of the complaints that we're getting from people in prison is there are not enough programs. There is a waiting list to get into them. Okay, so that's a problem. That's a problem we have to fix. So right now, it's hard to get into the programs because there's 1,000 people in the prison or 500 people in the prison, and there might only be 6 or 7 programs. So they're saying, I'm on a waiting list. Well, our programs, the programs that I'm submitting and creating, they're on demand. You don't have to wait. You can do these on your own. If you can get into the right job, those jobs give you earned time credits. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm saying it's better. The longer before you surrender there, the better off you are, because it's going to give the BOP more time to develop these programs.
So there's a chance that you could go into a facility, be qualified for 15 days a month, and you don't get it because you're not in any programs?
There is definitely, that's a problem today in some prisons. Some prisons, there are people in prison that are livid because Congress passed this law and it's not implemented yet. It's one of the reasons that I sent out a newsletter a couple of weeks ago saying the longer you put before you surrender to prison, the better off you are. I'm just optimistic because I know that right now there's a major push to get these programs in. In fact, it's such a major push that I will actually just share my screen with you and show you. Because I don't want you, I'm not bullshitting anyone. I want to show you. I got to put this over here first. Hold on a second. How do I, oh, right there.
Someone told me that even though the programs might not be in some of these facilities, that because of that, they're just automatically giving inmates the 15 days a month. Is that accurate?
I'd say that is probably a little bit of, based on my experience with the Bureau of Prisons, that's probably bullshit. But it could be accurate. Can you guys see my screen right now?
No.
Okay, I've got the wrong screen. Hold on. Stop share. I want to share. I want to share the message is why I'm saying how bullish I am on why this is happening. Okay, you guys see that name there right at the top? That name, Hugh Hurwitz?
Yes. Yes.
That's the former director of the Bureau of Prisons.
Okay.
Okay. Can you guys see the text?
Yes.
Okay.
Which one do you want us to look at, Mike?
I'm going to read them to you because this is all happening while I was in DC. I mean, in Kansas City. So I'm telling him what the warden, what their RD had told me about this, this concept that they finished the computation sheet. It's everybody's going to be updated by next, within the next couple of weeks. And he asked me, can you ask if the document is public? Are they giving the media or inmates then it to the public? If it's not public, he shouldn't give it to you. If it's public, then he has no reason not to. So I did ask the RD if it's public. The RD told me, no, it's not public yet. They're implementing it now. So it's only the executive staff that has that information that it's done. Okay. Then we go here and he gives me an update on what the wardens are saying after my presentation. He says, I spoke with Jeff Kruger. He used to be a regional director. He's back now, a warden in Springfield. Said he loved the presentation. My presentation was about bringing these on-demand programs into the Bureau of Prisons because they don't exist right now. Okay. He asked if the regional director, if the former director could join me on the trip. Okay. Then scroll down. He's saying, he told me, then I landed last night. He said, I had a great text exchange. He told me he reached out to the reentry coordinator and got them to agree to review our materials to clear up and make our content evidence-based. It may still take some time, but this could be short-circuited. He said, I'm glad he did that. It's much smoother. And he's talking about the political complications of getting something done and introduced into a big agency. Okay. Then he's writing to me, the former regional director, saying he spoke with the assistant director of reentry and she's working to review all of our stuff to see if it can be, she can authorize it as evidence-based. So then he writes me, this is rolling out very fast. There are a lot of exciting things happening right now. So this benefits anybody who's going into prison, anybody. It'll probably take me full-time work the next 5 months to get this really rolled out. But in 5 months, I anticipate that we will have a lot more programs in there so that people can be doing them. But with the current memorandum, anybody that has a relatively short sentence, they would only have to serve 50% of that. But what he is telling me, what the regional director told me, he said, we let out 15,000 people. And I want to say the number was 4. Only 4 of them returned. So that's the kind of data that an administration like Joe Biden and an attorney general like, I forgot his name, Merrick Garland, and a director like Colette Peters can look at all of this. And there will be many more opportunities for people, I think, to get out of home confinement earlier. The very astute person who pointed out, oh, you have to do a month to get 15 days, that's accurate. I just want to remind all of you that in January of 2020, if anybody would have said people in the Bureau of Prisons could get out at 25% of their sentence, that would have been saying, like, you could also take a magic pill and be as good looking as Glenn. You know, right?
He's real on me.
Okay, Gordy. I just thought
I don't have his guns though. I want to get his guns, so I
got to
can
go
jack.
to boxing class. Glenn's a professional fighter.
Oh, well, I played hockey, Glenn. I usually got pounded.
Oh,
With the jersey pulled over my head.
So all I'm saying to people is, yes, I am a natural optimist, and I'm a big believer that change, and I'm a big believer that I can help. I'm in a position to help advance that change. And I just want everybody to have some sense of hope as you're going through a really difficult time in your life. So,
okay, Michael. So here's my question.
okay.
Like the prison professor program that maybe is going to be going into the North Central region, right? And you said it's going to be on demand.
Not maybe.
No, it is.
He said it is. So
okay.
That's
so
why I have to be I've got to work really hard right now, but go ahead.
So under the First Step Act, it says that if you're participating in programs, like you can get retroactive credit for those. Like once you're, so could you do your program? And once you get inside, if you have in your release plan.
No, you have to have already, you cannot get any credits until you've scored on the pattern. So
okay,
you gotta
define that, Michael. Define that.
Okay.
On the pattern score.
Let me just rephrase that. The law says only minimum and low security people get these credits, not security. Pattern risk assessment. There's a difference between security and risk assessment. Yes. Okay. So first of all, that has to happen. Then the courses that you've taken apply. Okay. I'm not even in the program yet. So you can't go through my stuff and get credit until it's in there. Okay. Right. So I got to get my stuff approved, get it in there, and then you go through them. But that's what I'm working on now.
How many programs do you have to be part of to get 15 days?
Here's my question, Michael. So, when you have in your PSR, you have it looks at they look at your risk of recidivism, what they classify you as before going in, right? So now you're going to go to a camp or a low, wherever you're going to go. So you're saying, but the pattern score is actually not computed until you get in and meet your case manager for the first time, correct?
Until you go in and you do the survey.
The survey, got it. Okay,
remember, custody and classification score is not the same thing as a pattern score.
Got it. Makes sense.
Okay.
I got that.
And you can't do the pattern score until you've gone into the BOP system and you've taken the survey.
The survey, got it. Yep.
And you can do that survey on our website.
Yes, what should happen within your first 30 days of being inside? You should lose.
It will happen. If you're astute, you're going to get in there because you're going to do that on your own. Right. And you just do the survey and it'll score you.
Got it. Okay. That makes
what
sense.
Happens if how many classes do you have to be in to get this 15 days per month?
One. You just have to be programming during the month.
Yes. So
do we know if there's any? Do we know if there's any issues in the Southeast region when it comes to enough classes?
I can tell you that we have a lot of people in there getting those programs right now. So it's going to be which institution you're going to. But what I can tell you, can I ask when you're expecting to surrender?
Within the next 30 to, I have to surrender by December 1st, but I can go in early if I choose to.
Okay.
It'll probably be Miami.
Let me ask if somebody's on I don't know if Sam is on our call. Justin, are you on our call? Justin? I don't think Justin's on our call. Please reach out to either Justin or Sam and ask if we know somebody in Miami. I can't imagine that we don't have people that we know that are in Miami. And I can give you, it will be better if we get you that information from somebody.
Sam will know. Sam would know that. Oh, yeah. Michael.
Sam will know, but both of them, I don't do the one-on-one stuff, so I don't know.
Michael, quick question. So Glenn was talking about time and doing the programming and everything. Am I going to have time to do RDAP, programming, and work a job? All in that 11 months, like you
don't worry about that.
But I mean, that's so my first concern is doing the RDAP, right?
Actually, it doesn't matter. If you're in RDAP, you automatically get the earn time credits as well.
Okay. So programming is not the highest concern to me with short sentence.
If you're going to be in RDAP, you get it because RDAP is what's called an evidence-based program.
Oh, so you get the 15 months if you're in RDAP?
If you're in RDAP, you get whatever you got coming to you for RDAP, but you also get the earned time credits automatically.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's good news. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it actually says that in the First Step Act, that this is over and above anything else. Now, had you been in prison 6 months ago, you would have had a bigger problem on it because the Bureau of Prisons used to resist it. There was a different director. The new director was all
And if
about
you're in a camp, you get the full 15 days, not the 10 days.
well, assuming you qualify as a minimum pattern score.
Yes. Yeah, I
So,
read that.
so tell me what this pattern score is. I've never heard of it before.
Well,
So
you
what's
haven't been on my webinars, young man. I don't know who I'm talking to, but let me share it with you.
Yeah,
right
this
now.
is Jonathan. I just started last week.
Well, it's good to meet you, Jonathan. I'm going to
It's
show
like
you.
the
Can you
second
see my
webinar.
screen, Jonathan? If I share my screen?
No, I'm actually on I'm only listening on a phone. I'm not on a computer.
Okay, then I tell you what I want you to do. Who is your point of contact in our company? Is it Justin or Sam or Larry?
Yeah, Justin. Justin's been helping me for 3 years now.
Great. Ask Justin to send you to my website, and you can simulate the pattern score, and you can see what you score.
Right.
That,
Okay.
that was very helpful. Like that's one of the best tools. I mean, to be able to score yourself.
Yeah.
It's really,
You'll score yourself, and I pulled that right from the BOP, and I built that to help members of our community. So just ask Justin to help you.
Okay.
Bye. Next question, Glenn.
Yes. Okay. So I'll go to CARES Act. All right.
Okay.
I think I have a good understanding of the earned time credits. Well, let me say this last thing on the earned time credits. With this system, if the computer system is not done yet, right? This is what they're going to roll out. Is it our job then, through our release plan, as we build it while we're inside, just document those programs we're doing? But say, like you mentioned in an earlier webinar, that sometimes after your initial meeting with your case manager, you may not meet with them for another 3, 4, 6 months, right? But if you're doing effective programming like every month, is it a good strategy to be proactive, to request meetings with the case manager
It's never a good act. Earlier webinars, I would encourage all of you, if you haven't done so already, it's a good use of your time to watch those earlier webinars where I covered this. You're in a bureaucracy. It's a machine. You're a cog in that machine. You're not going to change the machine, okay? Just learn how to use that, work through that machine. With regard to your earned time credits, the only way you're going to get them is if you are registered in the course. Remember, it's a machine. If you're registered in the course, there's a record of it, okay? You're going to have it's going to be in what's in the database that's called Sentry. So you don't got to go and tell them, hey, I did the course. That's the purpose of this algorithm. If you're in there, your date's going to be computed every month.
But should we not put that in our release plan though? Like document that?
Of course. Your
Okay,
release plan,
Okay.
your job is to, your release plan is your marketing plan for yourself.
Right.
But it's not only to get out of prison, it's also for, you're going to come home and we're going to want to have you have a higher level of liberty on supervised release too.
Correct.
So you definitely want to document your journey through prison in every way. And so, yeah, I took this course. I learned this from it. I gave credit. Oh, if the Bureau of Prisons wasn't so magnificent, I wouldn't have been able to learn this stuff. I mean, yeah, you're going to use all your critical thinking skills right now to document your story.
And it was also on the earned time credit thing that said that you do not, I didn't really get this, but it says you do not have to complete a program in order to get the credit.
You have to participate in it for the month, and
For
you
the
get it
month.
for the month.
Yeah, but not completed. But you can still.
I think
get the
you have to
credit, not
finish it.
completed.
Glenn.
No, you don't.
You may not finish
No.
it. You may get released, but you still got your credit while you're there.
Because you participated. If you participated,
Yeah, if you're
that was.
participating on the month, you get the 15 days.
Yeah, that's what I did. That's what it was in. I had to read that like 3 times. I'm like, is that really
You
right?
have to complete, to answer Gordy, you have to complete RDAP to get that.
Yep.
That's a different system. Okay.
Yep.
But the earned time credits you get every time you're in there for a month and you do the 15 days, you get that.
And so, Michael, so if you're doing 2 programs in a month, right? 2
You're
different
not going to
programs.
get 30.
You're not. Oh, that's what I wanted. That's what I. So then what? So
No,
then what
it says a
benefit?
maximum of 15 days.
Okay. Well, then what? So there's no benefits really doing like multiple programs in the
Yes,
same month.
there is.
What is it?
You are demonstrating that you're program oriented and it's keeping you out of trouble and it doesn't hurt you, right? I would want to be the best in the world at what I do if I were in there and do everything good. It keeps you out of trouble. It keeps you prisons. There's a lot of negative people in prison, a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you be a
want to
program
avoid that.
junkie. You be a program. You be a program junkie.
This is your job. Get out of prison as soon as you can. Don't do it for yourself. Think about the stakeholders. You want a massive.
I was looking more strategic as if there's not a lot of programs in the prison where you are, and you do 2 or 3 in a month, but you can't get credit but for 15. Do you want to strategize that and say, okay, let me make sure that I'm going to be able to like capture the 15 ETCs?
You're going to be okay. Okay. Right. But the reason that you want to do this is because you always. Do you play chess?
Yes.
Okay. When you're playing chess, right?
That's box.
It's four moves ahead. I opened this webinar by telling you about these conversations I'm having with the former regional director who is telling me they may come up with a program to empty the camps. Okay. I'm not telling you they're going to do it, but he's telling me they're having those conversations. So you want to be at the very highest level of qualifying for that if it does.
Makes sense. I got it.
So your reentry plan should definitely show you as being the best possible candidate. Always be thinking about that. Look, in our course, we feature people who were once serving life sentences, but they're home now. And the reason they're home now is because they succeeded in building a record that either persuaded their judge to let them out or the president to let them out. And they had to do it when there was no access to anything. So I'm asking you, based on what I'm telling you I'm learning, please build a great record because we can't do that for you. You got to do that, and that becomes a documented part of your record that you can later use to advocate for yourself.
Your program is going into the North Central region, correct?
No, my program will go into every BOP facility across the nation. It's just going to take me capital and time to make that work, but I'm going to make that happen.
But it's starting in North Central, though.
We're starting in North Central. The goal is going to be get it rolled out throughout the North Central in the next 6 months, and then go to DC and spread it. So I'm working really hard to make that happen. I just came back from a really successful trip that gives me more confidence it's going to happen and fast.
Are you going to have people like they're teaching inside the prisons, or just going to be all like your program?
That would be my goal, is that they don't have to. We're starting in the most high secure prisons, okay? Because that's the real that's the pain point for the Bureau of Prisons, right? There's 10,000 people every day in segregated housing units across the nation. And he told me, I want to introduce your program that if they go through it, they can get out of segregated housing. Okay, that's where it costs the Bureau, $120,000 a year for each person confined in Thompson. So they want to reduce that number. And I'm going to be a tool for that. But he said, we're going to start, and then we can collect the data. So I got these courses, like I did a great course with Dr. Gallups, who's on this webinar. And it's a course where it teaches people how to think differently and so on and so forth. And I've got a lot of these courses, but we would take that course and anybody can go through it. Okay, anybody, wherever they are. And they would get credits for that. So I have to create more of those courses and disseminate them into the system. That's my job now. But I would encourage you, please go through as many courses as you possibly can and build your record just as if well, you're a professional fighter. If I want to get to be the number one guy, I got to do a lot of fights and win and get attention, right? That's what we're doing. It's just that right now there's a better opportunity to do that in the Bureau of Prisons than ever before.
Michael, I have a good friend here in DC, Mark Howard, who's a professor at Georgetown. He started a criminal justice reform class at Georgetown, and it's exploding. Kim Kardashian came to his class, the whole thing. And
yeah, one of our guys went to his class, Halim Flowers. But go ahead.
Oh, well, I just spoke to him the other day. Like, does this synchronize with what you're doing? Does courses like that brings more attention to what you're going to do?
I think
those or does it compete?
No, nothing competes. I mean, this is a huge, mass incarceration is a national problem. None of you guys should be going to prison. Okay.
Yep.
It's a big problem. It's going to take 20 years to undo this. So I'm not trying to use the old cliche, boil the ocean, right? I'm trying to create this program to solve this problem. And there's a lot of other people trying to solve the problem too. I'm not, God. I'm just a guy that did a lot of time in prison that gives 100% effort to try to change it.
Right.
And so that's what I'm trying to do. I God bless Mr. Stewart. I want a lot more, but nobody's competing. I mean, we're a nonprofit, so I'm just trying to get distribution, because if I get the distribution, we can influence 1 million people, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
Glenn, did I get more questions, or are you good?
Yes, you did. And my last question, just on CARES Act. So I'm reading CARES Act that says you have to serve at least 50% of your sentence, and that's even after all your good time and your earned time credits are calculated. You said 25 to 50%. Is it 25% or 50%? How do they?
It's 25% if you're within 18 months of your release date and your sentence, you've served 25% of your sentence. So if you have 10 months.
So I've got 48 months, right? I've got 48 months.
So that doesn't apply to you, right? What does apply to you is what I told you. I just had the conversation. The new mandate in the Bureau of Prisons is to get people who don't belong in prison, get them to serve their sentence at home. Okay? So it may take a year for that to happen.
Right, got it. Yeah.
But I will be working really hard to push that along. What he told me, the new director is very much inclined to push that along. So that's a reason for hope.
Yep. And the CARES Act is not
it may not affect a lot of people here. Like Gordy, you're probably going to be home in a year anyway. So
my wife's not going to like to hear that, Mike.
That you're going to be home in a year.
You wrote a letter to the judge. Can you give him extra?
See,
because
okay, all right.
But Mike, are you going to be?
Let me finish. I know you finish with Glenn.
Go ahead.
Then we'll go around the.
All right, go.
Yep. No. I just but it sounds like on with CARES Act that
But remember also about CARES Act. I want to caution everybody about CARES Act, because I will always be truthful and honest with everybody in our community. If anybody heard anything different from our community, let's fix it. Okay? Because the CARES Act is not a law in the same way that the First Step Act is a law, right? It's not the same. The president can do that, can be gone tomorrow. Okay, I don't think that's going to happen, but that's a presidential order, very different. Takes an act of Congress to change the First Step Act, so that's not. It's only going to get better. But based on my trip to Kansas City, I'm a big believer that even if they did away with the CARES, the Attorney General and the Director would work together to say, hey, I'm going to give you the direction. Because remember, when every one of you was sentenced, when a judge sentenced every one of you, he said, I hereby sentence you to the custody of the Attorney General. If the Attorney General tells the Director of the prison, and the Attorney General then gives that discretion to the Bureau of Prisons, right? It's the Bureau of Prisons that assigns where you serve your sentence. If the Bureau of Prisons says, we want you to serve so much time in the camp, and then we want you home in 6 months or in 9 months, great. right? That's
Yeah.
the kind of prison reform, policy reform I want our nonprofit to be a part of advancing. And that's what I'm doing. So
Good. Keep it up.
I will. Glenn, have I answered your questions? Okay. I want to now invite anybody else that's on this webinar. If you have a question, I want to respond. And
Mike,
I can go through the comments, because actually before I do that, let me go through the chat, because people have been asking me stuff in the chat.
All right.
And I'm going to go first of all to Arthur. Do they know what courses, programs, jobs, et cetera will qualify? Yes, they do, Arthur. There is a published list. And I've given a link to that on my website, but I will find it and send it out in my email that goes out on Monday to everybody. So yes, the answer is yes. My friend Dr. Gallups, there's always an opportunity. I learned that from my friend who's come up with his own success plan, doctor. Okay, Arthur, again. 1, I heard on a video of Justin's or yours that I should not bring my reading glasses for some reason. Is that true? No, that is not true. You should definitely bring your reading glasses. Yes, in fact, bring 2 pairs of reading glasses.
Yes, I can't hear that.
Pardon?
I said I won't be able to hear that.
Could you? I can't hear you. You're breaking up, Arthur. Could you send me that in a chat? Somehow I didn't hear you. But yes, you should bring your reading glasses. Bring them. Yes, you will need your reading glasses. I need reading glasses to read anything too. So I'm with you. And you can. Just don't bring in Prada glasses, right? Expensive glasses. Bring in cheap reading glasses. Sturdy, that'll last. Let me go to number 2. At first management interview, is it better to say that I have a job waiting or not? I think it's a good idea to say, if you do, yes, that you do, and keep updating them every time you meet with them. Okay, I've got a job. Yes, you want to have a good release plan. You want it to be iterative. You want to be saying, I'm taking classes that will make me perform better on that job. So that answers number 2. Number 3, provide some information on legal mail. Well, that's a very good question. I'm going to get the policy statement from the CFR, and I will publish that on the blog to give you the very specific, because it's kind of complicated. For those of you who don't know what that question is, in prison, they open every piece of mail that comes in, and a staff member reads it. So the letter comes in, the staff members will open the letter. Theoretically, they're going to look for, is there any contraband in it? They're going to go like this, okay? And then they're going to send it to you. If you're, a person of influence, they may read your letter, but they're going to give you the letter. Legal mail, they cannot do that. Legal mail has to be taken sealed. It gets delivered to the person. The staff member standing in front of you has to have you sign a book. Then he opens the letter, and then he looks to see if there's any contraband, and he doesn't read it. He just looks to make sure there's nothing in contraband in it, and then he gives it to you. Okay? To qualify for it to be legal mail, they don't make it easy. So the email has to have the lawyer's name, the lawyer's bar number. I'm going to just tell you how to make it super safe. The lawyer's bar number, not just it's coming from Scat and ARPS. It's got to come from John Edwards at Scat and ARPS, attorney at law, bar number this, and then it has to say legal mail open only in the presence of the inmate. Okay, exact words for it to qualify, because you're dealing with bureaucrats and sometimes they don't want to give you the legal mail. So I think I need to write a blog on that and give you an example of how to send it to your attorney, and then give you the CFR citation. So I will do that, Arthur, and I'll get that done this week. In fact, I got to make a note that I got to get that done this week. Hold on a second. Note. Boom. Blog on legal mail. I'll make that document. I'll send it out in the link, and you'll be able to send that link to your attorney that has an example. And it will also show up in our advocacy webinar thing. Okay. So number 4, what is okay to send and receive regarding packages? Books can come from Amazon. Okay. They can't come from your mom. Okay. I mean, it's just have them ordered from Amazon. Because they're used to dealing with Amazon and that bureaucracy, and don't ever have more than, say, 3 of them sent at a time. The rule's 5, recommendation, 3 books at a time. Okay.
And I think it's 10 per month, Michael. Does that sound
No,
right?
it's 5 at a time.
5 at a time.
But sometimes Amazon might send, 3 packages. It comes in 9. So just send 3 at a time. Okay.
3 to 10.
That's what I would say. And yeah, but if there's you're only supposed to have 5 in your locker at a given time. Really, they're not going to enforce that. So you can have 20 books in your locker, or they'll just tell you, hey, could you move some of your books out and then give them to your friend, and it's fine. You can send them to the library. That's fine. So, but only books. You cannot have other packages sent to you without permission from the staff. You'd have to get what's called a package permit and send that package permit, and it has to come in with a package permit. 5, sleep. How difficult is it to adjust to any tips? Great question. So everybody probably knows I was in prison for 26 years. And as a result of being in prison for 26 years,
You have white noise with you?
I don't sleep without earplugs because
Yeah.
I learned to sleep in prison with earplugs. And so I might live in this house that's super quiet, but if I don't have earplugs in, I don't sleep.
Well, do they sell them?
Yeah,
Michael, in the
they sell them
commissary,
in
they
the
sell.
commissary. Yeah, they sell
All
them in the commissary, and if they don't, you'll find somebody there in the prison that works in the facilities department or something, and they'll have earplugs, and they'll bring it. There's no problem getting earplugs, but that's my only recommendation. I also used to go to sleep very early in the day, like around 6 in the afternoon, because I wanted to avoid all the people in prison, and I wake up really early. But that's my tip. My tip is different. I did a lot of time. None of you guys are going to serve that kind of time. So I think you're going to get there. And remember the wisdom of Stephen Covey, who basically taught people, say, seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. Get to the prison, look around. You are going to find people who look like you, talk like you, friendly with you. They're going to embrace you, and you're going to come up with a routine that works for you. And I guarantee that's definitely going to happen. 6, what does the prison give you as far as hygiene items, clothing, and more? What must you buy at the commissary? The prison will give you everything you need to survive, but I will tell you, if you can afford to have $200 a month sent to you, your life is going to be much easier, because your hygiene supplies are going to cost you, $30 a month, $40 a month. And you're going to want to buy your own Colgate or Crest instead of using the prison issue powder or whatever it is. You're not going to want to use the prison soap of Borax. You're going to have your own soap, right? So you can buy those things, your hygiene items, in the prison commissary. I used to spend, I'd say, $600 to $700 a month in prison, because I spent a lot using the email system and the phone system and the commissary, but I was writing books in prison. I would say,
I thought it was $33.50 a month, Mike. Sorry to interrupt. I thought you could only spend.
That's for buying commissary, but
Okay.
there are some things that don't count. So like if you're going to buy email credits to send email, that doesn't count on the $350. And I probably used to spend $300 on email credits so I could send email every day.
Okay.
Your phone right now doesn't cost any money because of the CARES Act. So phone calls are free. But if they do away with the CARES Act, the phone calls are going to cost you about $100 a month, okay, to use the maximum amount of time. So that $350, things that don't count will include your medicine, right? So if you buy aspirin or Tylenol or things like that, that doesn't count. So some things don't count on that $350.
Okay.
So what does the prison give you as far? Okay, there we go. What must you buy at Commissary? You don't have to buy anything, but Commissary does make things easier. What you have to do is comply with FRP, okay? Whatever your financial responsibility plan is, do not screw that up, because that will keep you in prison longer, okay?
How do we set that up, Mike? Like right now, I'm trying, obviously, my lawyer cleaned me out.
Got it. Well,
Right. And I have an outstanding bill, so I'm trying to avoid it. But I have a lot of other lawyer friends here in DC.
let me
and
ask you a question. Let me just ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you have a fine or a restitution? Yes or no?
I don't have restitution. I
You have a fine.
believe they're saying, I believe it's 3 million.
You got a fine, okay? You would have known it's sentencing. Did the
Well,
judge say-
you know what, Michael, after what they already took or whatever, it's going to be at 2 million or so.
So you've got a fine. It's irrelevant. It's a big
All right.
number.
All right. It's a big
When you
number.
get
Right.
there, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Somebody going to send you money every month?
I hope, yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Are you going to surrender with some money?
Should I walk in with cash?
No, I would send it through the Western Union easier, but
$1,000
it'd be
to
there
start
the
with?
first- Pardon?
$1,000 to start?
If you start with $1,000,
Yeah.
what do you anticipate you would get over the course of the first 6 months?
Tuna fish?
No,
Soap?
How much money will go through your account in the first 6 months?
Hopefully 400 a month, 350, 400 a month.
If that's the case,
Yep.
here's what you're going to want to do. When you get to prison, on your first meeting, they're going to ask about FRP. You're going to already have $1,000 in your month because that's what you're going to get in the first month, which is what you
Okay.
kind of need to set up.
Yep. Yep.
So you want to be honest with them.
Yep.
And you're going to want to be able to say, this money I got during my first month to get me set up, I don't know what's going to come in every month. I hope that I'm going to receive a few $100s a month, but I don't know.
Yep.
Would it be okay if I sign up right now for $100 a month on FRP? Now, if you did that, that really advances you in the unit team's eyes as being a really good citizen in there, because everybody else is trying to not pay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And that's something I do. Lawyer doesn't do it, but I do that.
You do that.
Right.
Your unit team.
I thought it was $25 a quarter.
That's the minimum. You got to ask yourself a question. Do you want to get out of prison as soon as you can, or do you want to pay $25 a quarter? Right? I'm trying to get you to think strategically.
Yep.
Okay. If you want to get out of prison as soon as you possibly can, and to that fellow who just asked that question, I'm going to ask you, could you turn your mic back on and let's have a conversation again?
Yeah, I'm here. And again, I'm coming from an ignorant place here. I just
Don't
heard.
worry.
I have
No problem. Let me just ask you some questions.
I have restitution, and I've been told at my sentencing hearing that my payment when I'm through with my incarceration is $300 a month.
Okay, I want to just pause, and I just only want you to answer my questions. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. How much is your fine? Or
No
restitution?
fine.
Restitution. They're the same thing. Fine or restitution, as far as the purpose we're talking about, same thing. How much is it?
For me personally, it's $3 million, but
Great.
I'm
Full stop. That's all I need to know. Second, how much money do you think you will have sent into you in prison every month?
I've been told from various.
No. Forget what you've been told. What do you think? Just for the purposes of.
I don't know what things cost in prison.
No, I didn't ask you that. I'm asking you a different question. Really simple. What do you think on a reasonable basis will go into your prison account over the first 6 months that you are there?
I'm guessing $300 a month.
Okay, that's $1,800. Okay, 6 times 3 is $1,800. I would recommend. And how long is your sentence?
48 months, and I'll be doing RDAP.
Great, full stop. I would recommend because you're going to want to get out early. You're going to want to do these things. The goodwill that you are going to sow, if you've got that much money coming in, I just need you to know you are in a very different position from most of the people in whatever prison you go to. Many people in prison don't have $25 a month coming in. Number one. Number two, many people in prison are going to try and do exactly what you just said. They're going to want to pay $25 a month. I would like you to be thinking about building the best possible case to get the maximum amount of home confinement. So don't think about $25 or $50. You should be able to say, okay, I'm going to put in my head, I want to go to my unit team meeting, and on the first day that I'm in the unit team meeting, they're going to ask you about FRP. Okay? You are going to, you could say, please sign me up for $25 a quarter. That's the minimum. If you do that, I want you to know you're going to look like a typical guy in prison. If you say, I recognize that I have a responsibility to repay my victims, I'm kind of unknown of how much money I can get, but I think you can count on me for $75 a month. Would that be acceptable if I signed a contract for $75 a month?
So a month and not a quarter?
A month. A month.
Got it. Good.
I'm trying to give you the tools that you need to help you advocate to get out as early as possible. I'm not trying to save you $25 a month. If you can afford it and you know you can get it done, go in there and say, and be very deferential and say, I recognize I have a responsibility to the victims of my crime. I wish I could do more, but could we on the first 6 months agree to $75 a month and then reassess in 6 months? You're going to look like a super responsible guy. Okay.
And the person that I do this with, it kind of controls when I get out early?
No. Oh, yes, definitely. That's your case manager, because there's going to be a note in your file. And you just want to be the best possible candidate. So yes, that's my recommendation. That's it. Take it for what it's worth. Okay. My recommendation is don't do the minimum. Be way better than the minimum. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the questions on this chat. 7, avoid group sports in case of injury. I never did a group sport. Okay. Not so much because of injury, but because I didn't want to deal with other people because that can lead to an argument and there's risk. So some people love team sports. I was in prison and I did weightlifting, fitness exercises, and I became a runner because I didn't want to deal with other people. But some people love team sports. I would say you want to lower your risk levels of interacting with others at every opportunity. And sports puts you in the fact where you're going, hey, you should have slid. Why didn't you steal home? You know, you're a grown man. You're going to make your decision. I avoided them. Number 8, how bad or good is the camp food? Do I need to buy food at Commissary? Well, those are 2 different questions. Okay. No, you don't need to buy food at Commissary. How bad is the camp food? What do you think prison food is like? I mean, it's, there's some good meals that are okay. I did not eat a lot of prison food.
Is it like high school cafeteria? Is that what we're talking
kind
about?
of like that. You're going to have some mystery meats. Hamburgers are generally pretty good. Some prisons are better than others, but I always bought food at the Commissary. You can go to the chow hall. You'll find some foods. These are things you're going to learn. Prison food is prison food. Focus is not on prison food. It's on coming home. But yeah, it's okay. I mean, there are some people that say, it's okay. It's a lot better than I expected. Federal prison's better than state. But I do think you have to buy food in the Commissary to feel better. 9, how do I know it's time to awaken? To wake up? Well, you're going to hear a lot of announcements in prison. There's a loudspeaker system, and they'll say chow hall, they'll say count time, things like that, and you'll know. And one of the first things you're going to buy is a Timex Ironman watch that has an alarm on it. And so you'll set these alarms that they start remind you, oh, I got to be back for count. How do I know it's time to wake? 10, is there any privacy in a camp? Bathroom, shower are the best times. So big question. There is no privacy in prison, none. Now, can you go to the bathroom and close the stall? Yes, you can. And you can go to the bathroom by yourself. Okay. Can you take a shower in a stall? Depends on which prison you're going to. Some prisons still have that pole with shower spouts out. And because of that, people will self-privatize. And you're going to have to use all of your critical thinking skills and see how things are done. If you see there's 4 showers available, but there's 5 people waiting for shower, it's because they kind of have an unwritten tacit rule that you give some privacy. And so people will wait in line. So use all of your, seek first to understand how does it work around here, and you will get that at your prison. Okay. So because there is no privacy, out of a courtesy, people try to give privacy. And that goes everywhere. So that's 10. I've answered that person's questions. Let me go to the next person. I would love to participate in any manner that I can to help my own dog. I'm going to Washington. Okay, that's great. I know you would, Jeff. You are amazing. James, to me, please add BOP article link to chat. BOP article, right? I got to put that down. I know add BOP.
Mike, are you only doing chat questions right now? You're not
Yeah,
gonna do the
and
ones
then I'll go around. Because these were first.
Okay.
Article to email. About courses. Okay. Next, HF to everyone. Can you please tell me if you have 14 months based on the rules now, what's the best and worst case scenario if you are not using RDEP? That's a great question, HF. Best case. No, worst case. Let's do worst cases. Worst case is you do 14 months. Okay. You get no statutory good time and nothing else. That's the worst case. The only way you can get more than 14 months is if you commit a new felony and they charge you with another crime. So you asked me the worst case. That's the worst case. Now I'm going to do the best case, and then I'm going to do some realistic case in between. The best case, 2 months. You do 2 months in there, 6 months in a halfway house, 6 months on home confinement. That's the best case given the law to get today. How do I get you that? Because the Second Chance Act says that you could do your last year in an RRC. It's very unlikely that that's the case. Okay, but that's the best case. Let's talk about the realistic case. 14 months, you do get statutory good time, and that's going to be 15%. So 14, that's about 1 month and a half. That takes you to about 12 and a half months. Then we're going to do every month, you're going to do some programs and you're going to get 15 days off of that. So you can kind of advance that. In fact, I can kind of share this screen. We can test that right now on our calculator. That's probably a good idea to do. There. So if you go to Prison Professors, and whoever you are that's asking me that question, if you're still on the call, and whoever your contact person is at our company, please tell them, hey, you kind of dropped the ball. You were supposed to take me through and show me the calculator and walk me through so I could do this on my own. And I'm disappointed that you don't know how to do this already, because that's my team not showing you a tool. Well, let's go down here to this tool and use this, which you could find right there on the blog. It looks like that. Pattern score or release date for males. You're a male. And I'm just going to scroll down here. I'm going to assume if you've got a 14-month sentence, you're a minimum. So I don't need to go through all this top stuff. Okay. Your sentence is 14 months. Is your sentence over 12 months? Yes, it is. Whoever asked me that question, can you unmute yourself and tell me when your surrender date is? Okay, maybe you're not on, but I will just show you. Let's just say your surrender date is 10/01/2022. Please enter the number of days. I know that if you've been sentenced, you have at least 1 day credit. I'm going to say no, although I don't know if you know. It doesn't really matter. That just has to do with the elderly offender vote. No. And I can say summary projections. Okay, you're going to probably, oh, how many programs on the pattern? Let's say you do 1 month here and you do, let's just say 14 months. Let's just say 6. 329. I think that you would probably go to the halfway house in about 5 months. No, secure 8 months, 8.5 months. So I'd say the sweet spot for you, young man, or whoever, or young lady, whoever you are, is you're going to do between 5 and 8 months in prison. My guess is, based on what's happening in the Bureau of Prisons now on a 14-month sentence. But anybody can go through that calculator and kind of play with it. So there we go. I'm going to go to the next question. I have a 3-month sentence. Yay! Congratulations. That's a victory. And I'm starting on my release plan from the temple provided as a guide. Okay. Once in the system, how do we get the plan we have created? You should send that to yourself. Like, you should go to prison, and the week before you go to prison, you should put that in the mail and send it to yourself. Or not the week, the day before. And that way, once you get to prison, it'll get to you.
Send what, Michael?
This person's asking about a release plan.
Yep.
And I wrote a sample of one, and this person apparently is working on one. So I would say the day before you go to prison, put that in the US mail and just send it to yourself. Okay. And I'm Michael. I'm not Mr. Santos, but thank you. I know that I appreciate the respect, but I'm one of you. I'm just a guy that was in prison my whole life, and I'm not Mr. Santos. I'm just Michael. How true is what I heard from people that in prison, they count each day as 2 days, day and night to reduce your sentence? How true is what I heard that in prison, they count each day as 2 days, day and night, to reduce your sentence? I'm not totally clear on that question, but the reality is a day is 24 hours, and you're going to get that. You're going to do whatever the Bureau of Prisons says. You have 90 days, I think you said, so you don't get any good time. You got 90 days. So the worst case for you is 90 days, less earned time credits, and less anything they give you home confinement. So on 90 days with the CARES Act, you theoretically could get out in a couple of weeks. I just don't think the Bureau of Prisons works that way, and I don't think that's a realistic scenario. I think a realistic scenario for you on 90 days is you'll probably do about, it's theoretically you could do 90 days, okay? But it's also theoretically true that you could do 75. It's so short. And I know it's not short to you, but you're in a bureaucracy that just doesn't think in those terms. Okay, so 90 days is a hard thing to get all the benefits. Arthur, good. Can I receive paperback used from a private seller? No, don't do that. That's just a pain in the butt. Use Amazon. Okay, when you ask me, can I? There's a discretion on the guard. I would just not count on that. I mean, you can have the guy send it if you want, but they'll probably throw it away. Order from Amazon. That's why I publish all of our stuff on Amazon. I don't sell it myself on our site. I said, get it from Amazon. Okay, Glenn. Michael, I can't download your book on iTunes. Yes, you can. You just have to do it in installments. I'll show you how to do it, Glenn.
Okay, thank you.
I'll show you how to do it, buddy.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the webinar discussing the financial response plan was very helpful. Good. James, to me, please explain what a halfway house is like. Okay, James, a halfway house is very different from a camp, but you are halfway home. So you're mixed now with people of every security level while you're there, and you are Some people say I'd rather be in prison than in a halfway house. I'm of the opinion I'd rather be in the halfway house because I know I can get to home confinement faster. And I know I can have more liberty. I can go to work. Okay. I can go to school. I can do a lot of things. My goal is going to be to get you to home confinement. And as I promised all of you, if you're on this program, our team is with you to help you all the way through. So we've got a lot of people that help us, help you, and I'll do the best that I can. But you're in a machine. I don't know how long you'll get out. I don't know any of these things. All I know is I know how to navigate that system, and I'll do the best that I can to help you. Those are all the chats. What's next?
Michael, can I just ask a couple questions?
Yeah, I'm cool.
I know you were busy from this email that you asked for, but all of mine pretty much are related to my injuries that I've had through sports and how I have to deal with
Let's just do the questions. I don't need the backstory.
All right. Number one, will I be allowed to bring orthotics and/or good running shoes to deal with my documented heel spurs?
I would not bring good running shoes. I would bring the orthotics. And do you have doctor's stuff on it?
Yes.
Okay. Bring the orthotics with the doctor's recommendation. Bring the shoes, but be prepared for the possibility that they'll throw the shoes away.
Okay. And when you talk about all my stuff, like I had a stroke, for instance, do I have my lawyer send that stuff? Like you said in that
stuff?
When I meant the paperwork documenting, yes, he had a stroke. Or do I bring that?
Why is that relevant?
Just for the when I go into the medical check.
Bring your medical records with you.
Okay.
Yeah, bring your medical records with you, or have them sent to you the day before you surrender.
Okay. Do I bring my meds that I currently take?
I would bring your meds that you currently take. Do you know if they're on the BOP formulary?
I do not.
Are they normal meds or are they special meds?
Pretty much.
Then just bring, I would bring them, but understand that if they do not let you bring them, just say, I understand and respect your rules. Please, could you give them to the doctor and let the doctor make the decision?
Like hair loss stuff, like Rogaine and this other drug that I take for hair loss.
I don't think that's going to be on there. I don't think that's going to be on the formulary.
But my stroke, baby aspirin and cholesterol medication probably will be.
Baby aspirin, they're going to sell there, but I would bring what you have, just understanding that you may have to give it to the doctor.
Do I bring any cash?
I would not bring cash. Do you have anybody on the outside that is going to take care of you while you're there?
Yes.
Great. Tell them, look at the website that I've written about how to send money in prison through Western Union.
Yep.
Have them send you Western Union money 6
2 days.
6 hours after they drop you off.
Oh, okay. Not sooner.
You can't get it in there until you're in the BOP system, in that institution system, till you surrender. You've
talked about Social Security cards in one of your webinars, Michael. I don't have a Social Security card. I have a license and a birth certificate. Do I bring them with me on the first day?
I would bring those with you. I would bring copies of them with you.
Copies.
Yeah. Okay. So make sure that you have them, but if you feel comfortable, your sentence is 30 months. So it's okay to bring them because they'll just put it in the file. The nice thing is then the day they give you out, they'll give them back to you because it'll be in your file.
Like my cell phone. They'll give it back to me. They'll hold it for that time.
Cell phone?
They won't.
Don't bring your cell phone.
Right. No, I wasn't going to use it. I just meant.
No. Don't bring your cell phone.
Don't bring it. All right. So all the legal matter thing about when you said when you have a lawyer write legal on it, anything to do with the medical stuff, forget that.
Well,
just bring that with you.
That's not legal. Legal is having to do with something with your appeal that you don't want the Bureau of Prisons to understand, right? That's legal mail. Okay.
Yep.
Your medical records are kind of not really that relevant. You could just have those sent to you.
Oh,
you could bring those with you. If you have them, just bring them with you.
Okay. So in terms of getting a lower bunk because of my hip replacement.
Is that in your pre-sentence investigation report?
Everything, all that stuff is in there. Yeah.
Don't bring anything because they'll have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else?
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. There's some other questions. Joe, I think you have questions.
Yeah, thank you. Can my doctor contact the medical at the prison before I surrender?
No.
Let them know.
No.
Okay, if I don't get my medicine, do I do an informal request to BP8?
Well, let's slow this down a little bit. Medicine that you're saying you want to bring with you?
Well, I'm going to bring my medicine with me, and it's
And
it's on the
is this in your
formulary.
PSR? Is this need for medicine in your PSR?
Yes.
Okay. Bring the medicine. You should be fine. They're not going to deprive you of your medicine.
Okay. So in case
Carol just told me that's not what people are saying, but I don't know, Carol. People complain a lot. Prisons are prisons. And yeah, that's what we told you. So yes, the only remedy, if you're not getting something, is through administrative remedy.
Okay.
But do not be use all of your thinking skills, Joe. Fight for the right things. Don't fight for the wrong things. Okay. So, you're in a bureaucracy. Be courteous and kind and respectful. And let's hope you don't have that problem. What's your next question? Is there another question, Joe? Because I got to move on.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. Yeah, no, I'm just working at the golf course.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Someone was checking in. How do I go about blogging and writing to stay safe, like low key? What are certain things I shouldn't blog about? Because maybe the judge, the case manager.
Don't
everyone.
blog about other people in the prison. Don't say any complaints about staff. Okay. Write about the steps that you are doing to prepare for success. If you keep it positive, you don't have anything to hide. Okay. If everything you focus on is I'm going to be successful, I'm going to create, I'm going to be good, right? You're going to be better off than if you don't. Okay. You have a First Amendment right to write anything you want. And they have discretion to let you out of prison early. Just remember that.
Michael, can I piggyback on that question on his answer?
Yes.
I've had a number of high-profile people ask me for interviews on TV and whatnot, documentary type stuff. I'm hearing that staying away from all that until I'm done is the right way to go. We do not want to call attention to yourself. You don't want the warden to look like you're trying to get famous off of what I did. Justin, we had this discussion a couple of years ago. I've chosen not to do these interviews. Do you agree with that at this point, now that I'm here?
And is there any benefit? Is there any upside?
Who knows? You're right. That's a great question.
I just ask if is there upside? If there's upside for you, then that would give me a different answer. I mean, I did a lot of media and stuff in prison, but it was different. I had a 45-year sentence and I had a reason to do it. What's the upside? If there's upside for you, let that factor into your calculus. You have the right to do it. Okay. Yeah. But the better thing to do in prison generally is to be invisible and not be a star. Right. I was a well-known in prison. I did a lot of time in the SHU, but it was a conscious decision that I made.
Yep. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
If I go to a medical facility, is there portions that are high, medium, low, minimum parts of the medical center, or will I be mixed in?
You will always be in your custody level. So if you're a minimum, you're going to be with minimums. Anything else? Any other questions? 10-12 on Labor Day weekend.
With the pattern score and the century score, that gets updated monthly, quarterly?
Well, your pattern score is not going to get updated because it's going to stay minimum. But if you get a shot, it'll go up right away, immediately. Once you're minimum, you're minimum. You guys are all minimums. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on this webinar with me.
All the facilities quarantining right now, Michael, going in. I've had all my shots and whatnot. Like, for instance, Cumberland, Maryland camp.
Not all. The answer is no. Not all of them are quarantined. It's going to depend on the. That's an objective score based on the community and the CDC and how many people within 1,000 have it. And no, so I don't know. Do you know where you're going?
Cumberland, Maryland.
What level is Maryland? Is it a 1, 2,
The
or
camp.
3?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, let's look. Let me show
Okay.
you how to look. Okay, so let's share my screen, Google Chrome. There we are. I'm going to go to bop.gov. This is all you guys have to do. Go to bop.gov, go to locations, list of our
Okay.
facilities, go to Cumberland, boom. There's no visiting right now. It's a 3. There's a good chance you're going to be quarantined. Okay, but there's a good chance when they're now, because of the new CDC stuff, you're probably not going to the hole. They've probably set out one section, one wing of the prison that's for quarantine. You'll be there with everybody else that's surrendering for 2 weeks or something, or a week or whatever.
That's not bad.
It's not nearly as bad as it was at the start.
Yeah.
Bring your vaccination card and all that stuff, of course, with you.
Actual card or copy of it?
Copy. My wife, I gotta defer to Kara. Copy.
Well, you said that earlier about my license too. Bring the copies of
Yeah,
these
bring a
things.
copy.
Okay.
What happens if you don't have the COVID vaccine?
I don't know, but they're not supposed to treat you any differently. So if you don't
Like, there's no-
have it, they're still going to quarantine you on
Right.
on the place, and then they're just going to test you. Do you have COVID? And then they'll let you out, regardless of
Right. So they don't force you to get it though, correct?
no.
Okay.
It might be difficult though for you if you're trying to get out on CARES Act and say, "Oh, I did 25% of my sentence." Now that's probably not going to be the case with you because I know you're going to RDAP, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it would be difficult to say, "I've got to get out because I'm vulnerable to getting COVID," and then you didn't get the vaccine. They would argue against.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody
Okay.
else?
Thank you, Michael. This was great. Appreciate it.
Good. So you're going this week, you said?
No, Mike, I'm going on September 12th. I can do one more webinar.
Right. We'll
Next
do it
Saturday.
next week. And I'll give you guys updates. I got a shit ton of work to do.
Go ahead. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Bye,
Mike.
everybody. Thank you for being a part of our community.